Stop waiting for a miracle. Stop searching for a hack. The truth is, your brain is either your greatest weapon or your heaviest chain. But here is the scientific, undeniable reality. In just 21 days, the human brain can be physically, structurally rewired. Neuroplasticity is real, and it is waiting for your first command. For the next hour, I am handing you the exact step-by-step blueprint to forge a new neurological architecture of iron discipline. This is not motivation. This is not a theory. This is the 21-day assault on your own weakness. Listen closely. The countdown begins now. This is Build Iron Discipline in 21 Days. Chapter 1, Day 1 to 2, The Baseline Betrayal, Honesty as Violence. Welcome to Day 1. You clicked on this audiobook because something inside you knows you are capable of more. You feel it. That quiet, gnawing sense that you are operating at a fraction of your potential. And you're right. But before we build anything, before we rewire a single neural pathway, we have to do something that most self-help programs are too cowardly to do. We have to look at the truth. And the truth is going to feel like violence. Let me expose the foundational lie that keeps people mediocre for their entire lives. It's a lie you tell yourself every single night when your head hits the pillow. You look back on your day, and you say, "It wasn't that bad. I was pretty productive. I did a few things. I'm probably a 7 or an 8 out of 10 on the discipline scale. Not perfect, but way better than most people." This is the lie of not bad. And it is a cancer. It is a soothing, comfortable, deadly cancer that has metastasized through your entire self-assessment. The truth is this. You are not an 8. You are not a 7. You are not even a 5. Most of you listening right now are operating at a 3 out of 10. Maybe a 2. And here is the critical point I need you to understand. That statement is not an insult. It is the key that unlocks the entire 21-day program. Admitting that you are a 3 is the first act of real power you have taken in years. Because if you're an 8, there's not much room to grow. If you're an 8, you just need a few minor tweaks to be perfect. But if you're a 3, if you're staring at the smoking wreckage of your own wasted potential, then the upside is massive. The capacity for transformation is enormous. The honest person has something to work with. The self-deceived person has nothing but a fantasy. You have a choice. You can keep living in the comfortable delusion of not bad, or you can pick up the weapon of radical honesty and cut the tumor out today. The tool we are going to use is both brutal and simple. It's a daily audit. For the next 48 hours, Day 1 and Day 2, you are going to log your behavior with the meticulous, cold, unblinking precision of a forensic accountant investigating a fraud. Because that's what you've been. A fraud. You've been committing identity fraud, pretending to be a disciplined person while your actual output tells a very different story. Here is the protocol. You will carry a notebook or a note on your phone, and you will log every single activity in real time. Not just the work activities. Everything. 7 a.m., hit snooze. 7:15 a.m., scrolled social media in bed. 8 a.m., made coffee, stared at the wall. 9 a.m., opened email, read nothing important. 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., watched videos, sent memes. You will log the actual pathetic output of your day. You will measure the hours of deep focused work against the hours of scrolling, fidgeting, snacking, daydreaming, and researching that is really just procrastination in disguise. This log is a mirror. And for most of you, what you see in this mirror for the first 48 hours will make you sick. You will see that your productive day contained maybe 45 minutes of actual high-friction labor. You will see 4 hours of screen time on your phone. You will see that the gap between who you claim to be and who you actually are is a chasm. And that sickness you feel, that hot, burning shame in your chest, that is cognitive dissonance. It is the psychological pain of holding two conflicting beliefs simultaneously. Belief A, I am a disciplined, ambitious person. Belief B, I just wasted 4 hours watching other people live their lives on a screen. Most people run from this pain. They feel the shame rising, and they quickly shove it down with more distraction. Let me watch one more video to feel better. Let me eat something to numb it. Let me tell myself tomorrow will be different. That is a weakness. That is the behavior of a child. You are going to do something different. You are going to sit in that burning shame. You are going to marinate in it. You are going to let it wash over you without looking away. Because here is the secret that the self-help industry won't tell you. Comfort is a liar. Comfort tells you everything is fine. Comfort tells you to rest, to be gentle, to love yourself just the way you are. And comfort is the voice that has kept you at a 3 out of 10 for your entire adult life. Pain is a truth teller. Pain tells you that the gap between your potential and your performance is a gap that needs to be closed. Pain is the signal that something is wrong. And you don't numb a signal. You listen to it. You amplify it. You use it as fuel. The shame you feel when you look at that time log is not your enemy. It is your savior. It is the wake-up call you've been snoozing for a decade. That's the key. The pain is the point. The pain is the catalyst. If the audit doesn't hurt, you're still lying to yourself. Log more accurately. Get granular. Expose every single week, wasted minute to the harsh light of truth. This brings us to the final essential act of day 1 and day 2. You must stand on the smoldering ruins of your old self-image and make the declaration of zero. You must say out loud, to the empty room, the following words. And you must mean them. I am not a disciplined person, starting strong. I am an undisciplined person starting weak. And that is exactly why I have the capacity to grow. You are not standing at the peak, looking down. You are standing in a crater, looking up. And the crater is the best place to build a foundation. The crater is solid. The crater is real. The false peak of I'm an 8 is a cloud of ego that can't support a single brick. Declare your ground zero. Identify the specific pathetic habits that define your current baseline. Write them down. I am a person who checks my phone before my feet hit the floor. I am a person who abandons hard tasks the moment they become uncomfortable. I am a person who breaks promises to myself without a second thought. Write it all down. Own it. This is who you are today. This is the raw, unvarnished, unfiltered you. And there is immense explosive power in this declaration because you are finally dealing with reality. From this moment forward, you will repeat a mantra that will destroy any attempt by your ego to reinflate its comfortable delusions. Stop grading on a curve. Grade against perfection. In school, the curve makes you feel good because everyone else is failing too. But life isn't graded on a curve. Your potential is not measured against the mediocrity of your social circle. Your potential is measured against the absolute best you could possibly be. Against perfection. Against 100%. And against that standard, you are a 3. Good. Now you know the score. Now the game can begin. The lie is dead. The truth is here. And the truth, however violent, is the only foundation that holds. You've now seen the ugly, unfiltered truth of your starting point. The pain is fresh. The audit is complete. But knowing the problem isn't enough. We have to understand the chemical chains that keep you trapped in that ground zero. In the next chapter, we begin the physical rewiring. Chapter 2, Day 3 to 4, the dopamine detox, starving the beast. You've just completed the audit. You've seen the cold, hard numbers. You know how many hours you lost to the void of meaningless stimulation. Now we need to understand why. Why was it so hard to pull yourself away from the scroll? Why did the deep work feel like torture while the videos felt like a warm bath? The answer is not a character flaw. It is not laziness. It is chemistry. And if you don't understand the chemistry of your own brain, you will be a slave to it forever. Here is the brutal truth. Your brain is not currently wired for discipline. Your brain is wired for cheap, easy, high-speed pleasure. It is a spoiled brat that has been fed a steady diet of digital candy every single waking hour. And you, the supposed adult in charge, have been the one shoveling the candy into its mouth. Every notification, every like, every swipe, every sugary snack, every explicit video, each one is a dopamine hit. Dopamine is the neurotransmitter of motivation and reward. And your reward pathways are fried. They are flooded. They are so desensitized by constant low-effort stimulation that the idea of sitting down for 2 hours of focused cognitive labor feels like a punishment worse than death. You don't have a discipline problem in the way you think you do. You have a stimulation addiction. That's the key. You are addicted to the noise. You are addicted to the constant incoming stream of novel input. And like any addict, your tolerance has built up. You need more and more stimulation just to feel normal. So the boring, quiet, deep work of empire building? That produces a slow, steady trickle of satisfaction that your burnt-out receptors can't even register anymore. The work is not the problem. The work has always been the path to fulfillment. The problem is that you've deafened yourself to its quiet rewards by surrounding yourself with a screaming digital orchestra. So, here is the prescription for day 3 and day 4. We are putting the brat on a fast. A cold, hard, radical fast. For the next 48 hours, you are going to strip your sensory world down to its bare bones. This is not a suggestion. This is the protocol. You will eliminate, completely and totally, the following: no social media. Not a single scroll. No music. No podcasts. No background noise of any kind. No sugar. No processed foods. No junk snacks. No alcohol. And no adult content of any description. You're going to create an environment of radical sensory reduction. Why? Because you need to reset your brain's reward pathways to factory settings. You need to starve the beast so that it is forced to eat what you feed it. Think of it this way. If you have a child who refuses to eat vegetables, and all you feed them is chocolate cake, the child will never eat vegetables. The child will hold out for cake. The child will throw tantrums for cake. But if you take the cake away entirely, if you remove it from the house, something magical happens after a period of hunger and protest. The vegetables start to look pretty good. The hunger becomes the sauce. The same principle applies to your brain. When you remove the cheap, high-speed pleasure, the hunger for stimulation will build. And the work, the deep, meaningful, focused labor, will become the only available meal. Let me give you an image that will haunt you over the next 48 hours, the blinking cursor. Imagine a writer sitting down at their desk. The screen is on. The document is blank. There is nothing but a single black blinking cursor against a white void. The writer has no phone, no music, no internet browser open, no notifications. There is just the writer, the chair, the keyboard, and the blinking cursor. For the first 10 minutes, this is agony. The mind screams for distraction. It begs for a quick hit of novelty. Just check the phone one time. Just put on a song. Just open a tab. The mind throws a tantrum like a spoiled brat denied cake. But the writer sits. The cursor blinks. The void stares back. And then something shifts. The boredom becomes so intense, so profound, that the mind, in a state of absolute self-defense, begins to generate its own stimulation. It begins to produce a thought, a sentence, an idea. The blinking cursor goes from being a torture device to an invitation. The previously boring work becomes, in the absence of any competition, the most fascinating thing in the room. This is the point. This is the breakthrough. You must sit with the void until the void forces you to create. You cannot skip this step. The silence is the gatekeeper. You have a choice during these 48 hours. You will feel the withdrawal pangs. Your hand will twitch for the phone. Your mind will offer you 1,000 rationalizations. I need music to focus. Lies. I need to check this one thing for work. Lies. I just want to unwind for a minute. Lies. These are the death throes of the spoiled brat. Let it scream. Let it thrash. You are the parent now. You are the adult in command of your own neurochemistry. You don't need their permission to have a quiet mind. You don't need the stimulation. You've just convinced yourself that you do. This is the chemical rebalance. Understand what happens when you constantly flood the brain with cheap pleasure. You are robbing yourself of the drive for complex, meaningful labor. The cheap pleasure is stealing the energy that should be poured into your empire. Every hour of scrolling, every sugary binge, every hit of easy novelty, it gives your brain the chemical satisfaction of a hunt without actually hunting. It's like filling up on cotton candy before a steak dinner. You arrive at the table with no appetite for nourishment. The steak, the hard work, the deep focus, the challenging project sit untouched, not because they aren't good, but because you're chemically full of garbage. Starve the beast so it eats the work you feed it. This is the mantra for days 3 and 4. When the cravings hit, and they will hit hard, you will look at the craving and say, good. The fast is working. The beast is hungry. And when it gets hungry enough, it will devour the deep work I place in front of it with a ferocity I have never experienced. The silence is not empty. The silence is the fertile soil in which your new discipline will be planted. But you cannot plant seeds in soil that is choked with weeds. The detox is the clearing of the field. It is the burning of the old crop to make way for the new. Neuroplasticity, the physical rewiring of your brain that we are targeting in these 21 days, only begins when the static of overstimulation is silenced. You cannot reshape a brain that is being constantly bombarded. The bombardment keeps the old neural pathways firing, the old habits dominant, the old self in control. The silence is where the new pathways begin to form. The silence is the construction site of your new mind. So, embrace the boredom. Welcome the void. Sit in the quiet and feel the machinery of your brain recalibrating. This is not punishment. This is liberation. You are breaking the chains of chemistry that have held you hostage for years. You've now starved the beast and begun to clear the neurological static. The silence is terrifying, but it's also the first moment of real power. Tomorrow, we begin building the new structure inside that silence. We start with the single most critical hour of your entire day. Chapter 3, Day 5 to 6, Anchor O'Clock, the first domino. The detox is underway. The noise is fading. The beast is hungry, confused, and desperate for its old junk food. And now, into that silence, we introduce the single most critical structural element of the next 21 days. This is not a suggestion. This is not a nice idea. This is the non-negotiable 60-minute morning block that you will honor every single day from now until day 21 and beyond. I call it Anchor O'Clock. And if you mess this up, the rest of the day doesn't matter. Here is the psychology of the first hour. The way you start the day sets the trajectory for everything that follows. Most people wake up reactively. The alarm screams, and they immediately become a passive victim of the day. They grab the phone and scroll through messages, emails, news alerts, and social media updates. Within 60 seconds of consciousness, their minds have been hijacked by the demands of other people. Their emotional state is dictated by whatever bad news, angry comment, or urgent request is at the top of the feed. They have already lost. They had surrendered their command before the battle even began. You have a choice. You can be a commander, or you can be a responder. The commander seizes the morning. The commander dictates the terms of engagement. The commander understands that the first 60 minutes are sacred, protected territory that no external force is allowed to enter. This isn't a morning routine. A routine is something you do. This is a ritual of power. It is a declaration to your own subconscious that today, you are in charge. Today, the world does not get to tell you what to think about. You tell yourself what to think about. And you do it immediately, without hesitation, the moment your feet hit the floor. Winning the first hour creates a psychological phenomenon I call victory momentum. Imagine a massive, heavy flywheel. It takes enormous effort to get it moving. The first push is grueling. The second push is still hard. But once it starts spinning, once the momentum builds, it takes very little energy to keep it going at high speed. The morning anchor is the first hardest push on that flywheel. When you execute your 60 minutes with full, focused intensity, you have already logged a win before most people have even opened their eyes. That win aligns the rest of the day. You walk into the next task already in motion. The hardest part is behind you. The flywheel is spinning. If you lose the morning or skip the anchor, you're starting from a dead stop. And a dead stop is a very difficult place to generate power. You've lost the war before lunch. Let me introduce you to a principle borrowed from one of the most disciplined minds on the planet, Jocko Willink. Jocko is a retired Navy SEAL commander, and he has a very simple, very brutal test. The alarm clock test. How you wake up in the morning is a direct, unfiltered metaphor for your entire life. When the alarm goes off, what happens in that split second? Do you swing your legs out of bed and stand up immediately? Or do you hit the snooze button? That single decision reveals everything about your relationship with discipline. The snooze button is a lie. It is a small, seemingly harmless betrayal of the promise you made to yourself the night before. You set the alarm. You made a plan. And then, in the moment of truth, you broke the contract. You told yourself, just 9 more minutes. And you believed it. But those 9 minutes are not restorative sleep. They are low-quality, fragmented, useless half-consciousness. They are not about rest. They are about avoidance. They are the first act of cowardice in a day that will likely be filled with similar acts of avoidance. If you can't keep a small promise to yourself about when you'll wake up, what makes you think you'll keep a big promise about the work, the business, the empire? Discipline equals freedom. This is the mantra. It sounds paradoxical, but it is the deepest truth. The discipline to wake up immediately gives you the freedom of a morning that you own. The discipline to do the hard work first gives you the freedom of an afternoon without guilt. The discipline to say no to the cheap pleasures gives you the freedom of a clear mind and a strong body. And it all starts with the feet hitting the floor. One motion. No thought. No negotiation. Alarm sounds. Feet on the floor. Stand up. You have now won the first victory of the day. You have passed the alarm clock test. You are in command. Now, let's talk about what you do with the 60 minutes that follow. The anchor hour is not about checking email. It is not about catching up on news. It is not about passive consumption of any kind. It is about active output. It is about laying the first, most critical brick of the day. I want you to visualize these 21 days not as a sprint toward some distant, overwhelming finish line. A sprint burns you out. A sprint creates anxiety. Instead, you are assembling a wall. One brick at a time. Day by day. The wall is your new character, your new empire, your new iron discipline. And the assembly of that wall begins every morning in the anchor hour. The first brick is physical. Move your body. Sweat. You are not training for aesthetics. You are training for command. You are proving to your body that you are in charge. The second brick is mental. Read something dense, something challenging, something that upgrades your operating system. Not entertainment. Fuel. The third brick is strategic. Review your primary objective for the day. The one thing that moves the needle. Clarify the attack plan. Visualize its execution. When you stack these bricks, physical, mental, strategic, you have laid a solid, unshakable foundation. The rest of the day's bricks rest on this foundation. If the foundation is solid, the wall holds. If the foundation is cracked and in a rush, the wall collapses. Miss the anchor hour, and the wall collapses. Hit it with full intensity, and the structure holds. This is non-negotiable. For the next 48 hours, day 5 and day 6, and for every day that follows, you will protect the anchor at all costs. If you have to wake up at 4 a.m. to make it happen before the family wakes up, you wake up at 4 a.m. If you have to go to bed an hour earlier to ensure you get enough sleep for the anchor, you go to bed an hour earlier. You do not negotiate with this block. You do not move it for a meeting, for a crisis, for convenience. The anchor is the command center of your entire transformation. Protect the anchor at all costs. This is the mantra for days 5 and 6. The first domino. The first push. The first victory. Win this, and the day is yours. Lose it, and you are chasing your own tail until midnight. You have now seized the morning and built the first link in your chain of daily victory. But a strong morning can still be shattered by a weak mind. In the next chapter, we take the discipline from the clock and embed it directly into the flesh. Chapter 4, Day 7 to 9. Callous the mind, the room of discomfort. We have cleaned the mental palate. We have seized the morning. Now we enter a new phase. Days 7 through 9 are where we move from theory to physical practice. We are going to build a bridge between the discipline of the body and the toughness of the mind. Most people think discipline is a mental game. They believe they can sit in a quiet room and think their way into a stronger character. They journal. They visualize. They repeat affirmations into the mirror. And they remain weak. Why? Because the body is the foundation, and if the body is soft, the mind has nothing solid to stand on. The neurobiological truth is that physical discipline and mental discipline share the same circuitry. The anterior mid-cingulate cortex, the part of the brain that governs willpower and tenacity, does not grow through positive thinking. It grows through doing things you do not want to do. And the most direct, undeniable thing you can do that you don't want to do is to subject your body to deliberate, voluntary discomfort. This is the thermal loading protocol. It is the physical discipline that leads to mental toughness. For the next 72 hours, you are going to seek out the cold and you are going to seek out the burn. The prescription is twofold. First, cold exposure. Every single day during this phase, you will end your morning shower with a minimum of 3 minutes of entirely cold water. Not lukewarm. Cold. As cold as the tap will go. You will step into that freezing stream and you will not dance around. You will not scream and jump out. You will stand there, breathing deeply, controlling the panic, and you will stay until the timer hits 3 minutes. Second, intense exercise. You will find your physical limit and you will push past it. Sprints. Burpees. Heavy carries. Whatever form it takes, you will go to the point where your lungs burn and your muscles scream, and then you will do one more rep. This is not about physical fitness. This is not about getting a beach body. This is about proving a point to your own mind. There is a famous line from the movie The Matrix. Morpheus looks at Neo and says, "You cannot think your way into strength. You must act your way into it." This is the God's honest truth. You cannot meditate your way to a calloused mind. You cannot journal your way to resilience. You must act. You must put the body through the fire, so the mind learns that the fire does not kill it. The body leads. The mind follows. When your body stands shivering in the ice-cold water, and your mind is screaming at you to get out, and you override that command and stay, you have just taught the mind a lesson it will never forget. You are not a slave to your impulses. You are the master. This brings us to a principle that you must hardwire into your understanding of yourself. It's a principle extracted from the living laboratory of David Goggins, a man who has pushed the boundaries of human endurance further than almost anyone alive. He calls it the 40% rule. Here is the rule. When your mind tells you that you are done, that you are exhausted, that you cannot possibly continue, you have only reached 40% of your actual capacity. The voice in your head that says, "Stop," is a liar. It is a protective governor, a thermostat designed to keep you in a safe, comfortable operating zone. But the zone of growth, the zone where empires are built, exists beyond that governor. Think about the implications of this rule. It means that every single time you have quit in the past, quit a workout, quit a difficult conversation, quit a project, you stopped at 40%. You had 60% more in the tank. You weren't physically incapable of continuing. Your mind just told you a very convincing story that you were done, and you believed it. And believing that story, over years and decades, has built a ceiling on your life so low that you have to crouch to avoid hitting your head. You need evidence to dismantle this lie. And the evidence comes from the cookie jar. This is another Goggins concept. The cookie jar is your personal reservoir of past victories, the moments when you did something you didn't think you could do. Every time you push past the 40% threshold, every time you stay in the cold water 1 second longer than you thought possible, every time you complete one more rep after the voice said stop, you bake a cookie and you put it in the jar. Then later, when you're in a different kind of battle, a business crisis, a personal setback, a moment of crushing doubt, you reach into that cookie jar and you pull out that evidence. You say to the voice, I've been here before. I've pushed past you before. I did it then, and I will do it now. Let me give you a practical example of how this works. The interval training test. Find a track or an empty stretch of road. You're going to run 8 200-meter sprints. Each sprint, you're targeting 80 to 90% maximum effort. The first 2 feel okay. The third one, the lungs start to burn. By the 5th, your legs feel like concrete. Somewhere around the 6th or 7th sprint, a very specific voice will appear in your head. It will be crystal clear. It will say with absolute certainty, you are done. You physically cannot complete another sprint. You must stop now. It is not safe to continue. This voice feels like the voice of reason. It feels like self-preservation. This is the liar. This is the 40% governor. And in this moment, you have a choice. You can listen to the voice, slow down, stop, and prove the governor right. Or you can do the one thing that builds a callus on your soul. You can accelerate. You can push harder into the pain, just for a few seconds, just to show the voice that you heard it, and you rejected it. And when you cross the line of that 7th sprint, heaving for air, you will have a moment of profound clarity. You will realize that the mind broke before the body. The body was fine. The body had reserves. The body was ready to go. But the mind tried to shut it down prematurely. Witnessing this is everything. Once you've seen the liar clearly, you cannot unsee it. You gain power over it. This is how you harden the internal voice. The mental chatter you experience during a 3-minute plank is identical in structure to the mental chatter that begs you to quit a difficult business negotiation. This is too hard. I'm not good enough. Let's just take the easy option. We can try again tomorrow. It's the same voice. It has the same slimy, seductive tone. It uses the same rationalizations. And the beautiful, terrifying truth is that you can practice ignoring it. When you practice ignoring it in the cold plunge, you starve it. When you practice ignoring it on the sprint track, you weaken it. And when that voice shows up in the boardroom, in the office, in the late-night hour of deep work, it is weak, and you are strong, and you swat it away like a fly. Callous the mind today so the world cannot cut you tomorrow. The world is going to try to cut you. It's going to throw criticism, rejection, failure, and pain in your direction. If your mind is soft and pink and tender, every little cut will bleed you dry. But if your mind is covered in a thick layer of callous tissue, formed through thousands of small deliberate acts of physical courage, those same attacks will bounce off. You will feel them, but they will not penetrate. The callus is your armor. You are forging it now, rep by rep, shiver by shiver, day by day. This is the work of days 7 through 9. Enter the room of discomfort. Close the door. And do not come out until you have proven to yourself that you are more than the voice that says you are done. You've now begun the physical forging process. The body is hardening, and the mind is following. But a hardened mind attached to a scattered schedule is still a blunt instrument. In the next chapter, we sharpen the blade by attacking the greatest productivity lie you've ever been told. Chapter 5, Day 10 to 11, The Purge of the Pseudo-Task. We are now at the midpoint of our journey toward the midline. Days 10 and 11. You have cleaned your neurochemistry. You have seized your mornings. You have begun to callous your mind through physical discomfort. You are feeling a sense of momentum. You are feeling more disciplined than you did 10 days ago. And that feeling is dangerous. Because right now, there is a silent, seductive trap waiting for you. It wears the mask of productivity. It speaks the language of busyness. And it has destroyed more empires than laziness ever has. I am talking about the pseudo-task. The pseudo-task is any activity that feels like work, looks like work, exhausts you like work, but does absolutely nothing to move the single most important needle in your life. It is the busyness illusion. And you are almost certainly addicted to it. Most people spend their entire careers trapped in this illusion. They are incredibly, frantically, exhaustingly busy. Their calendars are packed with color-coded blocks. Their email inbox is at 0. Their desk is immaculate. Their to-do list has 17 items checked off by lunchtime. And at the end of the day, when they look back at what they actually accomplished, there is nothing there. Nothing that mattered. Nothing that built the empire. Nothing changed the game. They were rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. They were organizing the files as the ship sank. And the ship is always sinking. The ship is your finite, non-renewable life. The iceberg is irrelevance and mediocrity. And the deck chairs are the emails, the notifications, the formatting, the admin, the busy work that feels safe, easy, and productive, but contributes exactly 0% to the outcome that will determine your fate. The exhausted narcissist loves pseudo-tasks. They provide a constant stream of small, easy wins. They make you feel like a responsible, hard-working adult. But they are a narcotic that numbs you to the terrifying reality that you are avoiding the one thing you actually need to do. Let's get clinical about this. Decades ago, President Dwight Eisenhower, a man who managed a global war and an entire nation, developed a framework for prioritization that cuts through the noise like a scalpel. The Eisenhower Matrix. It divides all tasks into 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1, urgent and important. Crises, deadlines, fires that must be put out immediately. Quadrant 2, not urgent but important. This is deep work, strategic planning, relationship building, and skill development. This is where empires are built. Quadrant 3, urgent but not important. These are the pseudo-tasks. The ringing phone, the drop-in visitor, the email marked high priority by someone else, the administrative trivia that screams for attention but holds no strategic weight. Quadrant 4, not urgent and not important. Pure distraction. Entertainment. Scrolling. Here is the devastating truth about most people's lives. They spend their days frantically bouncing between Quadrant 1 and Quadrant 3, believing they are being productive. They exhaust themselves in the trenches of other people's urgent but unimportant demands. Then they collapse into Quadrant 4 to numb the exhaustion. And Quadrant 2, the quadrant of empire building, the quadrant of your actual purpose, remains a ghost town. Empty. Untouched. They never get to it. And then they wonder why, despite all their hard work, their lives haven't changed in a decade. Real discipline is not about doing more tasks. Real discipline is about having the courage to ignore Quadrant 3 entirely and live in Quadrant 2. It's about declaring war on the urgent but unimportant and protecting the deep work with the ferocity of a guard dog. You have a choice right now. Today, Day 10, you are going to conduct a friction identification audit. You are going to look at your to-do list, your project list, your mental list of things I should be doing, and you are going to find the one item that triggers the most intense, visceral, internal resistance. It's the task that makes your stomach clench slightly when you think about it. It's the email you don't want to send, the proposal you don't want to write, the difficult conversation you don't want to have, the cold call you don't want to make, the creative work that feels too hard, too big, too exposed to potential failure. Find it. Circle it. This is your frog. The task you are most likely to avoid is the exact task you must attack first. This is not a coincidence. This is a design feature of reality. The high-friction task is high-friction precisely because it matters. It is the one that will move the needle. It is the one that will generate revenue, advance your career, deepen the relationship, or solve the foundational problem. The friction is a signal. It is a homing beacon pointing directly at the work that is most worthy of your attention. The amateur sees friction and runs away. The disciplined builder sees friction and walks directly toward it, weapon drawn. This brings us to the brutal, relentless application of a concept popularized by Brian Tracy. He called it "eat the frog." The rule is simple. In the morning, after you've won the anchor hour, you must do the most difficult, high-friction, needle-moving task first. Before you check your email, before you attend meetings, before you touch a single pseudo-task with a 10-foot pole, you lock your gaze on the frog and you eat it. You do not negotiate. You do not delay. You do not give yourself a little warm-up task to ease into it. The warm-up task is a lie. It is a pseudo-task in disguise. For the next 48 hours, day 10 and day 11, your operational mandate is to eat the frog relentlessly. You will not clear your inbox first. You will not tidy your workspace. You will not do a quick, easy little task to build some false sense of momentum. You will identify the frog and attack it with everything you have until it is done. Digested. Off the plate. Only then, only when the hard thing is vanquished, do you permit yourself to touch the smaller, less critical work. The pseudo-tasks will still be there. They are always there. They multiply like rabbits. But they will not build your empire. They will just fill the time between now and your grave. Don't rearrange the deck chairs on the Titanic. Steer the ship. The deck chairs are comfortable. Arranging them gives you a pleasant sense of control. But the iceberg is dead ahead, and no amount of tidying will prevent the collision. The only thing that prevents the collision is a hard, decisive turn of the wheel. The frog is the wheel. The pseudo-task is the deck chair. Every hour you spend on pseudo-tasks is an hour you have chosen to let the ship sail closer to destruction. You don't have time for that. You don't have time to be busy. You only have time to be effective. Purge the pseudo-task. Identify the friction. Eat the frog. This is the builder's code. This is the discipline of the effective. You've now sharpened your focus to a lethal point. You are attacking the hard thing first. But as the days roll on, the program's initial fire will face a new enemy. Not a task, but a feeling. The slow, creeping weight of the midpoint. In the next chapter, we face the dip head-on and turn exhaustion into a weapon. Chapter 6, Day 12 to 14, The Ascent, Raising the Bar. You are now entering the kill zone. Days 12, 13, and 14. This is the stretch where the vast majority of people who start a program like this will quit. They will not quit because the work is too hard. They will quit because the novelty has worn off and the romance has died. The first week felt electric. The cold showers were a shocking new challenge. The anchor hour was a badge of honor. The detox was a trial by fire that made you feel alive. But now on day 12, the cold shower is just cold. The anchor hour is just early. The discipline is just work. The initial adrenaline of transformation has faded, and all that's left is the grinding, unglamorous reality of sustained effort. This is the midway flux. And I need you to understand its psychology, because if you don't, it will kill your progress. The midway flux is the psychological valley that sits between the initial excitement of starting and the deep satisfaction of mastery. The beginner's high is gone, but the habit is not yet wired into your neurology. You are in a no-man's land. The old you, the comfortable, undisciplined you, is still putting up a fight. The neural pathways of weakness are not dead, they are wounded, and they are thrashing. They are sending urgent messages to your conscious mind. This is unsustainable. Maybe you should take a rest day. You've been doing so well, you deserve a break. Is this really worth it? Look at other people, they're not doing this, and they're fine. These messages feel like wisdom. They feel like reasonable self-care. They are lies. They are the death throes of the old self trying to reassert control. Most people succumb at this exact point. They take the rest day. And the rest day becomes 2. And then the program is silently abandoned, and they slide back into their old patterns, adding this attempt to the long, shameful pile of things I almost did. You will not be most people. You will recognize the midway flux for what it is. It is not a signal to stop. The dip is the price of entry. It is the toll booth on the road to transformation. Everyone who wants to cross must pay this toll. The weak turn around at the toll booth. The disciplined pay the price and drive through. That's the key. Feeling the dip is proof that you are on the right path. If you felt no resistance, you wouldn't be changing. The resistance is evidence of the change. You have a choice. You can interpret the fatigue as a sign of failure or as a sign of growth. You can listen to the seductive whispers of the old self, or you can tighten your grip, bare your teeth, and accelerate through the valley. The valley is not a permanent landscape. It is a transition zone. On the other side of this valley, the new habits begin to feel natural. The anchor hour becomes automatic. The cold exposure becomes routine. The deep focus becomes your default state. But you only get to that other side by walking through the middle, and the middle is hard, and the middle is dark, and the middle is where legends are separated from pretenders. And we are not just going to survive the midway flux. We are going to attack it. We are going to exploit it. Because the midway flux is a sign that your mind is adapting to the load. And adaptation is the enemy of growth. The body and the mind are incredibly efficient machines. They adapt to stress, and then they plateau. If you keep doing the same anchor hour, the same workout intensity, the same discipline protocols, your system will eventually settle into a new, higher, but still limited baseline. You will be better than you were, but you will stop getting better. Stopping growth is the start of death. An empire that stops expanding begins to contract. A muscle that is no longer overloaded begins to atrophy. A mind that stops being challenged begins to stagnate. So on day 12, we raise the bar. Mechanically, specifically, deliberately. The anchor hour that you have been protecting so fiercely is no longer 60 minutes. It is now 90 minutes. Anchor 90. We are adding 30 minutes of deep, focused, high-output work to the most critical block of the day. Why? Because you are ready. The you of day 1 could not have handled 90 minutes of sustained focus. The you of day 1 barely had 20 minutes of focus in your entire day. But you are not the you were on day 1 anymore. You are stronger. You have calluses. You have momentum. And now you must prove it by carrying a heavier load. Adding load at the moment of fatigue is counterintuitive. The amateur's instinct is to back off, to rest, to recover. The professional's instinct is to lean in. The professional knows that the moment of maximum fatigue is the moment of maximum adaptation. Push harder when you want to pull back, and you force the system to upgrade. This principle applies beyond the anchor hour. Look at every protocol you've established. The cold exposure. Can you add 30 seconds? The physical training. Can you add 1 more set, 1 more rep, 5 more pounds? The deep work block. Can you eliminate 1 more distraction? Can you deepen the focus by 1 more notch? The midway flux is not the time to coast. It is time to escalate. Raise the bar. Increase the difficulty. Show the old self that its counterattack has not weakened you, it has enraged you. And to fuel this escalation, we are going to borrow a weapon from the Stoic philosophers of ancient Rome. They called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Negative visualization. This is not pessimism. This is not morbid self-torture. This is a tactical, psychological exercise that harnesses the power of fear as a motivator. Here is how it works. Sometime in the quiet of day 12, perhaps during a moment when you feel the pull to quit, I want you to sit down and close your eyes. And I want you to visualize in vivid, painful detail, waking up tomorrow as the old, weak self. Visualize it with full sensory intensity. Feel the weight of the blankets as you hit snooze for the third time. Feel the sticky, dull fog in your head from a night of bad sleep and late-night scrolling. See yourself reaching for the phone, thumb swiping mindlessly through the feed of other people's lives. Feel the lack of energy, the lack of purpose, the quiet, gnawing shame of knowing you had a chance and you threw it away. Visualize the ground zero you declared on day 1, the pathetic audit. The hours wasted. The ambitions were abandoned. See yourself back there, trapped, with all the doors you had begun to open slamming shut in your face. Feel the taste of that old life, the bland, comfort-numbed, purposeless existence. Now, open your eyes. That is the alternative. That is what waits for you if you quit. The terror of returning to ground zero is not a punishment. It is a powerful negative incentive. It is the stick that drives you forward when the carrot of future success feels too distant to matter. The carrot of the distant empire is sometimes too abstract to motivate you through the deep fatigue of day 13. But the stick of becoming your old self again is immediate. That is visceral. That is unacceptable. You know what it feels like to be weak because you lived it for years. You have now had a taste of what it feels like to be strong. The difference is night and day. The difference is between death and life. And you must remind yourself brutally daily that the door back to the old life is always open. It is a swinging door. It takes no effort to walk back through it. All you have to do is stop. All you have to do is take the rest day. All you have to do is hit the snooze button one time, and the gravity of the old habits will pull you back through that door so fast your head will spin. The only thing keeping that door closed is your relentless, daily, minute-by-minute refusal to walk through it. The terror of returning to that room is your fuel. Use it. Let it drive you up the hill when the ascent feels steepest. You are now pushing through the valley. The dip is paying out. The bar is rising. But there is another dimension to discipline that we have not yet fully explored. You are getting stronger in isolation, but the world is full of people who will test that strength. In the next chapter, we build the shield that protects you from the most dangerous weapon of all, the words of others. Chapter 7, Day 15 to 16, The Soundproof Mind, Immunity to the No. You have built a formidable internal structure. Dopamine is regulated. The morning is seized. The body is hardening. The deep work is prioritized. You are becoming a machine of output. But a machine has a critical vulnerability that we have not yet addressed. A machine can be switched off by an external hand. A single critical comment, a single rejection, a single no from the outside world, can hit you like an EMP blast and shut down your entire operating system for 24 hours or more. If your internal discipline is dependent on external approval, you are not a fortress. You are a house of cards in a windstorm. We are now on days 15 and 16. And these 2 days are dedicated to building what I call the soundproof mind. The soundproof mind is not a mind that cannot hear criticism or rejection. It is a mind that hears it, processes it for useful data, and then dismisses it without allowing it to pierce the emotional hull. The ship cannot stop for every storm. We covered this earlier in the context of internal emotions. Now we apply it to the specific storms created by other human beings. Because other people are the most frequent and most dangerous source of psychological disruption you will face. Consider this scenario. You wake up. You execute your Anchor 90 flawlessly. You eat the frog. You are in a state of deep, productive flow. You are building your empire, brick by brick. And then at noon, you check your email or take a call and receive negative feedback. Someone rejects your proposal. Someone criticizes your work. Someone questions your methods. And suddenly, the flow is gone. The momentum is shattered. Your mind spirals into a loop of defensive arguments, self-doubt, and resentful rumination. The rest of the day is a write-off. You have been neutralized not by a lack of discipline, but by a lack of immunity to the opinions of others. A disciplined schedule is useless if a single critical comment can obliterate your focus. This is the Stoic shield. The Stoic philosophers understood that most human suffering is caused not by events themselves, but by our judgments about events. An event happens. Someone says something negative about you. That is the raw data. The suffering comes from the judgment you attach to it. This is terrible. This means I'm a failure. This means they hate me. I must defend myself. I must replay this conversation 100 times to figure out what I should have said. The event lasts 5 seconds. The self-inflicted suffering lasts 5 hours, or 5 days. The Stoic shield is the ability to intercept that judgment before it takes hold. You receive the data. You ask, is there any actionable truth in this criticism? If yes, extract it, silently thank the source, and move on. If no, dismiss it as noise and move on. Either way, you move on. The ship does not anchor itself to a passing storm cloud. Here is where this gets particularly insidious. The most dangerous discipline killer often does not come from an enemy or a jealous competitor. It comes cloaked in love. It comes from a parent, a partner, a close friend. It comes from someone who genuinely cares about you, or at least believes they do. You're on day 15 of this program. You're waking up at 4 a.m. You're taking cold showers. You're turning down social invitations to do deep work. You're eating differently. And the person you love looks at you with a concerned frown and says, I'm worried about you. You're working too hard. You need to relax. You're taking this too seriously. Come on, just take a day off. One day won't hurt. This is the loved one attack. And it is lethal. It is lethal because it bypasses your defenses. You expect attacks from haters. You're prepared for those. But when the attack comes from someone you love, it doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like love. It feels like concern. It feels reasonable. And the temptation to agree, to relent, to prove that you're still the same person they know and love, is overwhelming. You want to show them you're not obsessed, that you still know how to relax, that you're still a normal, fun human being. And in that moment of wanting to please them, you sabotage yourself. You must understand the psychology behind this. It is often not conscious malice. It is the crab in a bucket syndrome. You know how fishermen keep crabs in a bucket without a lid? They don't need a lid because if one crab tries to climb out, the other crabs will reach up and pull it back down into the bucket. They do this instinctively. They sense one of their own escaping the collective misery, and they respond by dragging it back to the common level. Human beings, even loving, well-meaning human beings, do the same thing. Your discipline, your progress, your relentless forward motion, hold up a mirror to their own complacency. It makes them uncomfortable. They see you climbing, and it reminds them that they are still sitting at the bottom of their own bucket. So they reach up with a loving, concerned hand, and they try to pull you back down. You have a choice. You can stay in the bucket to make them feel comfortable, or you can keep climbing, alone if necessary. You don't need their permission to be extraordinary. You don't need their approval of your schedule, your habits, or your intensity. When the loved one attack comes, and it will come, you will respond with calm, firm, unshakable resolve. You will say something like, I appreciate your concern. I'm doing what I need to do right now. I love you, and I'll see you at dinner. You don't argue. You don't defend. You don't justify. You acknowledge, and you continue. The argument is the trap. If you get pulled into an argument about whether you're working too hard, you've already lost. You've already opened the door for the bucket to reclaim you. Politely, firmly, totally ignore the pullback. Keep climbing. This brings us to the core identity shift of days 15 and 16. You must decide once and for all whether you are a lighthouse or a windsock. A windsock is a hollow fabric tube mounted on a pole. It has no internal structure. It has no fixed position. It spins wildly with every shallow breeze. When the wind of public opinion blows from the east, it points west. When the wind of criticism blows from the south, it points north. It is a reactive, pathetic instrument, defined entirely by forces outside its control. Most people live as human windsocks. Their emotional state, self-worth, and decisions are dictated by whatever wind is blowing through their social environment. You are not a windsock. You are a lighthouse. A lighthouse is a solid, massive, grounded structure. It has deep foundations driven into bedrock. And it stands there, unmoving, regardless of the weather. The storm rages. The waves crash against its base. The wind screams. And the lighthouse does not budge. It does not spin. It does not react. It simply stands, fixed and certain, and it does its job. It shines the light. The lighthouse is not there to be liked by the storm. The lighthouse is not there to be approved of by the waves. The lighthouse is there to serve its function, to guide the ships that matter to safe harbor, and to outlast the weather. Be the lighthouse. Fix your position. Anchor your identity to the code, not to the shifting, unreliable winds of external opinion. Immunity to the approval or disapproval of others is non-negotiable. This is not a nice bonus trait. It is a prerequisite for empire building. An empire that is governed by the whims of foreign courts is not a sovereign empire. It is a vassal state. You are building a sovereign mind, an independent territory that answers to its own internal laws. The court of public opinion has no jurisdiction within your walls. The only opinion that matters in your empire is the one you deliver to yourself in the mirror audit, which we will formalize later. For now, for days 15 and 16, practice the soundproof mind. Hear the noise. Acknowledge the noise. Shield the fortress. Keep building. The lighthouse stands. The light stays on. You have now fortified your perimeter against external disruption. But there is one final vulnerability that exists not outside you, but in the tiny critical gap between your intention and your action. In the next chapter, we eliminate the hesitation. Chapter 8, Day 17 to 18, The Speed of Execution, Closing the Gap. We are deep into the program now. Days 17 and 18. You have built the structure. You have hardened the body. You have soundproofed the mind. But there is a tiny, almost invisible crack in your armor that we have not yet sealed. It is a crack so small that most people never notice it. And yet, it is the crack through which your entire empire can crumble. I call it the hesitation gap. The hesitation gap is the space between the moment you know what you should do and the moment you actually begin doing it. It is the pause. The micro-moment of deliberation. The split second where your brain switches from execution mode to negotiation mode. You hear the alarm. You know you should get up. And then, in that tiny gap, the negotiation begins. Just 5 more minutes. It's cold out there. You worked hard yesterday. You sit down to start the deep work. You know the frog is waiting. And then, in that tiny gap, the hand reaches for the phone. Let me just check one thing first. The gap opens, and through that gap, hesitation pours in like floodwater through a crack in a dam. And hesitation, left unchecked, becomes procrastination. Procrastination becomes paralysis. Paralysis becomes failure. Here is the brutal, undeniable truth. The hesitation gap is the grave of ambition. It is a small grave. It is an unmarked grave. No one will write an epitaph for the empire you almost built. No one will mourn the potential that was lost in the space between the intention and the action. But that is where ambition goes to die. Not in the grand, dramatic moments of spectacular failure, but in the quiet, mundane, repeated moments of the pause. The pause is the enemy. The pause is the crack. And for the next 48 hours, your entire focus will be on closing that gap to near zero. Let's understand the neuroscience of what is happening in that pause. The hesitation is not a character flaw. It is a biological function. Your brain is designed to conserve energy and avoid perceived threats. The prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain responsible for complex decision-making and goal-oriented behavior, is energy expensive to run. When you face a task that is difficult, unpleasant, or unfamiliar, your brain's protective mechanisms kick in. The amygdala sends a faint threat signal. This might be painful. This might lead to failure. This might cost energy. And the prefrontal cortex, in its well-meaning but ultimately sabotaging effort to protect you, opens the negotiation floor. It invites the debate. Are we sure we want to do this right now? Maybe there's a better time. Maybe we need more information first. This negotiation is the hesitation gap. And every second that the negotiation continues, the likelihood of action drops dramatically. The brain, left to its own devices, will almost always choose the path of least immediate resistance. It will choose comfort over challenge. It will choose the known over the unknown. It will choose the scroll over the sprint. You cannot negotiate with this mechanism because it is programmed to win the negotiation. The only way to defeat it is to refuse to enter the negotiation at all. You must eliminate the gap entirely. This is where we weaponize a tool that has been popularized but rarely understood at its deepest level. The 5-second rule, originated by Mel Robbins. Most people hear about this rule and they think it's a cute little motivational trick. Count down from 5 and then just do the thing. It sounds simple. It sounds almost childish. But it is not a trick. It is a neural override switch. And when deployed correctly, with full understanding of its purpose, it is a weapon of mass execution. Here is the mechanism. When you feel the instinct to act, or when the alarm rings, or when the task appears before you, you must physically move within 5 seconds. You count backward in your mind, 5-4-3-2-1, and then you move. The backward count is critical. Counting forward, 1-2-3-4-5, allows the brain to keep going. 6, 7, 8, the count can extend indefinitely. The forward count is a continuation. The backward count is a termination sequence. It engages the prefrontal cortex in a focused, specific cognitive task that interrupts the brewing negotiation. It occupies the brain just long enough to prevent it from generating an excuse. And then, at 0, before the amygdala can raise a single objection, you are already in motion. The alarm rings. 5-4-3-2-1. Feet on the floor. No thought. No pause. No gap. For day 17 and day 18, you will apply the 5-second rule to every single transition point in your day. The alarm. 5-4-3-2-1. Move. The deep work block begins. 5-4-3-2-1. The phone is in another room, the document is open, the first word is being typed. The workout session looms. 5-4-3-2-1. Shoes are on, laces are tied, and you are out the door. The cold shower awaits. 5-4-3-2-1. The water is on, and you are in it. You will not pause. You will not deliberate. You will not feel into whether you are ready. Ready is a lie. Ready is the excuse the hesitation gap uses to keep you waiting forever. You will never feel ready. You will only feel ready after you have already started. The motion creates the motivation, not the other way around. By removing the microsecond pauses that previously allowed friction to enter, you'll begin to access a state of flow that feels almost supernatural. Momentum as a drug. When you eliminate the gap, action begets action. One task, executed without hesitation, triggers the next. The flywheel we talked about earlier spins faster and faster. There is no grinding start-stop, no jarring transition between rest and work. The day becomes a seamless, fluid sequence of deliberate, immediate executions. This is the state of high-output warriors. This is the zone where empires are built in half the time it takes everyone else to get out of bed. Don't think. Just execute. This is the mantra of day 17 and day 18. The thinking is what kills you. The thinking is the gap. The thinking is the grave. You have already done the strategic thinking. You know what the frog is. You know what the schedule demands. You know what the code requires. There is nothing left to think about. There is only the doing. The gap between the thought and the deed is the grave of ambition. Close the gap. Fill the grave. Become the implacable, immediate, unstoppable force that the universe itself hesitates to challenge. When you move without pause, you move with the power of inevitability. And inevitability builds empires. You have now reached the point where your internal machinery is running at elite speed. The hesitation is dead. But an elite engine operating in a vacuum of isolation is a lonely, and often unsustainable machine. In the next chapter, we confront the social cost of this transformation and embrace the solitude that greatness demands. Chapter 9, Day 19 to 20, The Isolation of the Predator. We are approaching the end of the formal 21-day protocol. Day 19 and 20. By now, you have experienced something that most programs will not prepare you for. You have started to feel a gap opening up between you and the people you used to be closest to. Your conversations feel different. Your interests no longer align. The jokes don't land the same way. The Friday night invitations feel less like opportunities and more like threats to your momentum. You are beginning to realize that the path you have chosen is, by its very nature, a path that leads away from the herd. And this realization can be terrifying. We are tribal creatures by biology. The need to belong is wired into our DNA. For millions of years, separation from the tribe meant death. So when you start to feel that separation, even in a modern, safe context, your brain interprets it as a survival threat. It sends up alarm flares. Go back. Rejoin the group. Laugh at the jokes. Drink the drinks. Fit in. Your life depends on it. This is the final, and perhaps most powerful temptation to revert. Not the bodily comfort. Not the mental laziness. But the deep primal fear of being alone. Let me tell you the truth about this fear. To achieve elite discipline, to produce world-class output, to build an empire that stands apart from the common landscape, you must accept a degree of solitude. The top 1% do not just work differently. They live differently. They think differently. And as a result, they are often, in a very real sense, alone. The deep, unbroken focus required for mastery is a jealous god. It demands the hours that the herd spends socializing, watching screens, and gossiping about nothing. It demands your presence in the dark silence of the early morning when the rest of the world is unconscious. It demands your mental energy, your emotional bandwidth, your very soul poured into the craft. And when you pour your soul into the craft, there is simply less of you available for casual, surface-level social interactions. The herd senses this. The herd notices that you are present in body but absent in spirit. And the herd, confused and threatened, begins to drift away. You are leaving the herd. This is not a tragedy. This is a graduation. The herd is the place of safety, mediocrity, and collective stagnation. The herd moves slowly, thinks alike, and punishes deviation. The herd's greatest fear is that one of its members will stand out, because standing out reminds those who remain that they are choosing to blend in. The weekend warrior culture, the culture of work hard, play hard, the culture of looking forward to Friday and dreading Monday, is a herd culture. It is a culture designed to make the average person feel okay about their averageness. You are no longer average. You have not been average since day one when you looked at that brutal audit and refused to flinch. You have been climbing ever since. And now, on day 19, you are high enough on the mountain that you can no longer hear the chatter of the base camp. There is a social cost. Let me be direct about it, because no one else will be. You will lose acquaintances during this transformation. Some of them will drift away silently. Some of them will actively push you away. Some will mock you. Oh, look at Mr. Discipline. Can't even come out for a beer anymore. Thinks he's better than us. This mockery stings, not because it is true, but because it is a distorted reflection of a truth you are still learning to accept. You are not better than they are in terms of intrinsic human worth. But you are operating on a different level of output. And that difference makes them uncomfortable. You are no longer fun to the average friend. You don't participate in the complaining sessions about the boss. You don't engage in the petty gossip about mutual acquaintances. You don't drink away your paycheck and your clarity on a Friday night. You are a mirror reflecting their own lack of discipline, and most people will eventually choose to smash the mirror rather than change their reflection. This is not a bug in the system. It is a feature of the process. The shedding of old relationships built on shared weakness is a necessary step toward building new ones anchored in shared strength. It's not about becoming a misanthrope. It's not about looking down on others. It's about accepting that the natural consequence of growth is a change in your environment. A tree does not apologize for outgrowing the pot it was planted in. It simply requires new soil. You are the tree. The old social circle, the one built on shared complaints and empty entertainment, is the pot you have outgrown. There is no malice in this. It is simple biology. You have changed what you consume mentally, physically, and spiritually. You are a different organism than you were 19 days ago. The old organism's companions will not recognize the new organism. And that is okay. That is right. That is the price of the ascent. You have a choice. You can slow your growth to make the herd comfortable, or you can accept the predator's isolation and keep climbing. The wolf is not invited to the sheep's party. The wolf is not included in the sheep's group chat. The wolf does not graze in the pasture, chatting about the weather and the quality of the grass. The wolf is in the mountains, alone, silent, hunting. And the wolf, because it is alone, is often misunderstood. The sheep look up at the mountain, see the silhouette of the wolf against the moon, and shudder. How lonely. How frightening. How sad to be up there all alone. But the wolf is not lonely. The wolf is free. The wolf is sharp. The wolf is alive in a way that the sheep, huddled together for warmth and safety, will never experience. The lone wolf starves less often than the pack follower. This is the mantra of days 19 and 20. The pack follower relies on the pack for scraps. The pack follower waits for the alpha to make the kill and then scrambles for whatever remains. The lone wolf hunts on its own terms. It eats what it kills. It answers to no one. Its survival, its nourishment, its very destiny, are entirely in its own jaws. Solitude is not a weakness to be pitied. Solitude is a power to be wielded. Silence and distance are the protectors of the new 21-day identity that is still forming inside you. This new identity is a fragile, precious thing. It is a newborn predator. And a newborn predator must be kept away from the noisy, trampling feet of the herd until its muscles are strong, its instincts are sharp, and its heart is fully committed to the hunt. Prepare to operate in the dark, unobserved, until the new habits are bone deep. You don't need their permission to disappear. You don't need their approval of your solitude. You don't need to explain why you're not coming out. An explanation is an invitation for negotiation. The herd will negotiate. The herd will say, just one drink. Just 1 hour. Just one episode. Close the door. Turn off the phone. Embrace the cold, clean silence of your own company. The empire you are building is being built in that silence. The next chapter, the final chapter of our 21-day protocol, is about cementing this new identity into permanence. The isolation is not the end. The isolation is the cocoon. And day 21 is the day you emerge. You have walked away from the noise. The herd is a distant memory. You stand now on the threshold of a new identity, forged in 20 days of relentless pressure. Tomorrow, you are reborn. Chapter 10, Day 21 and beyond, the rebirth, forging the identity. You have arrived. Day 21. For 3 full weeks, you have starved the beast, seized the morning, calloused the mind, purged the pseudo-tasks, raised the bar, soundproofed your emotions, closed the hesitation gap, and embraced the isolation of the predator. You have done the work. And now, you stand at a threshold that most people never reach. This is the day when the scaffolding comes down. This is the day when the training wheels come off. This is the day you stop becoming and start being. There is a profound neurological shift that must occur on day 21, and it's a shift that most programs completely ignore. They treat the 21 days as a finish line. You crossed it. You get a medal. You post about it. And then you slowly, quietly revert to your old patterns. This happens because the program framed discipline as something you do, not something you are. On day 1 through day 20, you were doing discipline. You were engaging in behaviors that were not yet natural. You were using willpower, accountability, and the structure of this program to force yourself into new patterns. That is necessary. You cannot skip the doing phase. But if you finish this program still believing that discipline is something you do, you will lose at the moment the program ends. Because doing implies the option of not doing. Doing implies a temporary state. Doing implies that the real you is still the old you, and this program was just a costume you were wearing. Today, on day 21, the shift must occur. You must transition from doing discipline to being disciplined. This is not wordplay. This is a fundamental change in identity. You are not a person who tried a discipline program. You are not a person who went through a 21-day challenge. You are a disciplined person. Period. Full stop. End of sentence. The behavior is no longer a graft attached to the old self. The behavior is the new tree trunk. The old tree has been cut down. The stump is dead. The new growth is you. This is the final neuroplastic shift. For 21 days, you have been carving new neural pathways. You have been firing and wiring new connections in your anterior mid-cingulate cortex. The physical structure of your brain has changed. You are not the same brain that started this program. You are not the same person. And if you are not the same person, you cannot act like the old person. The old person hit snooze. You get up. The old person scrolled endlessly. You focus. The old person avoided hard conversations. You lean in. Not because you're trying to be disciplined, but because this is simply who you are now. To cement this identity shift, I am going to guide you through something I call the mirror ceremony. This is not a metaphor. This is not a visualization. This is a physical, literal act that you will perform tonight, on the evening of day 21. You will go to the bathroom. You will close the door. You will turn on the harsh, overhead light. No soft lighting. No filters. You will stand in front of the mirror and you will look yourself directly in the eyes. And you will speak to the reflection. Out loud. Not in your head. The words must leave your mouth and enter your ears. This is how you program the subconscious. This is how you seal the identity. Here is your script. You will say these words, or a version of them that fits your specific journey. I see you. I remember who you were 21 days ago. I remember the audit. I remember the lies you told yourself. I remember the wasted hours, the broken promises, the quiet shame of knowing you were capable of more and doing nothing about it. That person was real. That person was me. But that person is gone. You have proof now. You have 21 days of waking up when the alarm rang. 21 days of cold water. 21 days of deep work. 21 days of eating the frog. 21 days of pushing through the dip. 21 days of saying no to the noise. You have the evidence. You cannot claim to be weak when you have 21 days of iron staring back at you. The proof is in the mirror. The proof is me. I am a disciplined person. This is who I am now. This is who I will remain. You have proof now. This is the key that locks the new identity into place. On day 1, you could say you wanted to be disciplined, but you had no evidence. The jury of your subconscious was not convinced. Now you have 21 days of exhibits. 21 days of testimony. The jury has reached a verdict. The verdict is guilty of greatness. The sentence is a life of relentless forward momentum. The old self's objections have been overruled by the weight of the evidence. When the old voice tries to creep back in, and it will try, you will point to the evidence. I don't do that anymore. I have 21 days of proof that I am not that person. The proof is your shield. The proof is your sword. The proof is your new identity. Now we must talk about tomorrow. Day 22. Because day 22 is the most dangerous day of all. There is a phenomenon I call graduation syndrome. It works like this. A person completes a program. They get the certificate. They feel the sense of accomplishment. And then, in their subconscious, they believe they are finished. They have graduated. The program is over. And so, subtly, almost imperceptibly, they allow themselves to relax. Just a little. Just one snooze button. Just one skipped workout. Just one evening of mindless scrolling. And then the slide begins. The slide back to ground zero. Day 22 is not a graduation. Day 22 is day 1 of the next level. The system does not end. The code does not expire. The 21 days were not the transformation. The 21 days were the boot camp. They were basic training. You are now a soldier. The real deployment begins now. The battlefield of your life stretches out before you, and the enemy, complacency, distraction, weakness, is still out there, waiting for you to lower your guard. You now have the blueprint. You have the manual. You know how to starve the beast, how to anchor your mornings, how to callous your mind, how to purge the noise, how to raise the bar, how to shield your emotions, how to close the gap, and how to stand alone in your power. But the blueprint is useless if you roll it up and put it in a drawer. The construction has only just begun. The 21 days laid the foundation. Now you must build the walls. Then the roof. Then the interior. Then the next floor. And the next. And the next. The empire is never finished. The disciplined person is never off duty. There is no retirement from the care and maintenance of your own character. Every morning is anchor o'clock. Every day has a frog. Every moment of hesitation is an enemy to be slain. Every external opinion is noise to be filtered. This is the life you have chosen. Not because it is easy, but because it is the only life that produces something worth building. You are no longer a person who talks about discipline. You are no longer a person who reads about discipline. You are no longer a person who wishes they were more disciplined. You are a disciplined person. And a disciplined person does not wait for permission. A disciplined person does not wait for motivation. A disciplined person does not wait for the calendar to flip. A disciplined person acts. Every day. Without fanfare. Without applause. Without end. The program is complete, and the program has just begun. Welcome to day 22. Welcome to the rest of your life. The empire is yours to build. Now go build it. You have the manual. You've heard the specific daily blueprint to rewire your brain, starve the beast of distraction, callous the mind, and burn the bridge back to weakness. But knowledge without execution is just clever noise designed to make you feel better about staying the same. The 21 days start now, not Monday, not January 1st, not when you feel ready. The clock is ticking, the absolute second this audio stops. Iron discipline isn't a gift, it's a harvest. And you plant the seeds in the dark, cold hours of the morning when no one is watching. So, here is your assignment. Don't try to read all 10 chapters at once. Lock the first command in. If you retain nothing else from this book, hear this: tomorrow morning, win the first hour. Don't touch your phone. Feet on the floor. Attack the day before it attacks you. Prove to yourself in the silent solitude of the next 24 hours that you are capable of doing one hard thing you don't want to do. That proof is the foundation of an empire. The 21-day clock has started. Go.